You can't hide in there for the rest of the session. I'm alright.
My session's not going the way I want it to, so I'm gonna visibly get angry. Oh my god, it's so not about you.
Right.
If you're the therapist, it's so not about you.
4mm Allen wrench.
I'll fix your problem because it serves me.
Absolutely.
Not because I want to help you, but because I need the espresso.
Here's the deal. I'm going to fix your coffee machine. Then you're going to make my coffee and call me a taxi.
You're a taxi.
No, taxi.
Hey guys, I'm Bobby.
And I'm Carly.
And welcome to Two Therapists, One Breakdown. We are both mental health therapists. We are clinicians in the state of North Carolina.
And we also happen to be siblings.
Yes, so we have a unique perspective to share on how mental health is represented in media, pop culture, TVs, movies, video games, anime.
You name it.
You name it. So we're going to be today watching an episode of the show Wednesday. Now, I haven't seen Wednesday, but I've heard some really interesting things about the therapist that's apparently on this show and how mental health and how Wednesday's mental health is represented, so it's going to be interesting.
I, like many of you, binged the whole season in one day.
So she knows what's going on, I don't, so you'll get to watch her watch my face when crazy stuff happens. If you want to see the unedited complete reaction, feel free to go in the description and follow us on Patreon. Only if you want to see more stuff like this, it helps keep our channel going. Today is the inaugural video of Two Therapists, One Breakdown. I am wearing my gothic wear today. I'm a big Nightmare Before Christmas fan. So I'm a big fan of the original Addams Family stuff too. I really think that Morticia and Gomez Addams are couples goals, and we could all learn a lot from them. You ready to get into it?
Let's go.
All right.
Sure, whose twisted idea it was. To put hundreds of adolescents in underfunded schools. Run by people whose dreams were crushed years ago.
I can sympathize.
I want names.
Don't know who they were. Honest. Happened so fast.
Huxley, emotion equals weakness.
Let's talk about that. Emotion equals weakness.
Agree? Disagree?
I disagree. I mean, I think you would disagree as well.
I would. Emotion does not equal weakness. Emotion is very healthy. People who don't show emotion, bit of a red flag.
Beyond a bit of a red flag, I would say that it's a defense mechanism for a lot of us. I mean, especially just coming from a guy's perspective. A lot of us don't show emotions, not because, we've been told, oh, men can't cry or anything like that, but because we've had experiences where being vulnerable or showing emotion, it just doesn't provide positive feedback. People get weirded out by that. But the key, I think, is learning where and who with to be vulnerable. Brene Brown is an awesome author who basically stipulates that vulnerability is necessary for happiness, that you have to be able to be vulnerable to experience true joy.
And that's what makes relationships so hard, because it requires being vulnerable.
Let's see if, I know we gotta pause the video first thing off, but emotion equals weakness is such a strong thesis for a character right out the bat. Let's see if she kind of maintains that going forward, and how starting from a place of emotion equals weakness actually will interact with how she talks to other people her own age and how she views her authority figures as well.
And if her view on this changes as the season progresses.
So you've seen the show. I'm suspecting that this may be her arc, but we'll see.
Darling, how long do you intend on giving us a cold shoulder?
Lurch, please remind my parents that I'm no longer speaking to them.
I promise you, my little viper, you will love evermore. Won't you, Tish?
Of course you will. It's the perfect school for her.
Why? Because it was the perfect school for you. I have no interest in following in your footsteps, becoming captain of the fencing team, queen of the dark prom, president of the Seance Society.
I merely meant that finally you will be among peers who understand you. Maybe you'll even make some friends.
Nevermore is like no other boarding school. It's a magical place. It's where I met your mother. And we fell in love.
You guys are making me nauseous. Not in a good way.
Let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about parents versus teenagers. Your thoughts? Because you've seen this whole thing, right?
Lifelong battle. Now, we start out with her at a kind of a mainstream school where she's definitely the outcast. So we don't know if this was her choice originally or if parents thought that this was best for her. But we've all been there when, or know someone whose child acts out and the consequences kind of change the trajectory. Parents are forced to make decisions, and they seem to think this is a very positive change, while Wednesday herself disagrees.
I think a lot of my teenage clients, when I've seen teenagers, if there's a school change, it's generally not up to them. They're not the ones who get the final say in that.
Right.
And frankly, they shouldn't be. Parents really do have the authority to say, okay, we're going to pull the trigger on putting you in a new school. Now, communicating with their teenager, finding out what their strengths are, what their social situation is, why they might do better at one location than another, those are conversations that have to happen. And it sounds like maybe there wasn't a conversation about this. It seems like now is the conversation that's happening, at her expressing her displeasure at this.
And for parents, it's important to let your teen express, their feelings to you, even if it doesn't change your mind.
Yeah, you have to be able to not just say, because I said so, right? I don't know how many of you remember being a teenager. Some of you might be teenagers now, but hearing because I said so is not a satisfying answer.
It's really not.
It's just going to breed resentment.
It's also kind of a lazy answer. Take the time to explain to your teen why you're doing something.
For instance, if you're her parents in this scene, Wednesday's parents, you probably want the best for your child. I mean, Morticia said, what are the goals of her going there? To be around people that share a culture with you, right? So the culture of the Addams family might be kind of spooky.
Yeah, kind of unique.
A little creepy. But Nevermore, apparently, from what I've heard, seen trailers and stuff like that, seems to be that kind of culture. So not underestimating the presence and the impact that culture can have. That might be a positive step, that her parents want her to be in their culture, as well as be able to have a place where she can make connections with friends. Sounds like at the other school that might have been difficult for her, especially with how different her mindset is than her peers. You want to talk a little bit about gifted kids or outliers?
Definitely, Wednesday doesn't need friends in her mind, and at the school where she was, that wasn't really an option. So I think, her parents are kind of expecting that she will have a bigger social circle that she can relate to. Now, for Wednesday, even the option of friendship, kind of scary. But in terms of being gifted, it's important to be in an environment that challenges your child, especially your teen. If they are bored, they're going to get into trouble.
Yeah. Who wants to be bored?
Yeah, I don't like to be bored.
Yeah, grown-ups don't like it, teenagers and kids don't like it either.
And, it's a great time to explore new options, a new hobby, activities, especially at a boarding school like Wednesday is going to at Nevermore.
One other thing that struck me before we hit play again, it really sounds like expectations are a big thing.
I'm glad you brought that up. So, Morticia and Gomez kind of, are explaining to Wednesday that this is where they went. They had a great time there. They're expecting her to have a great time there. They may even be expecting her to have a similar or exact same experience that they did and just love it as much as they did.
What parent of kids doesn't want their kid to enjoy things the way they did? If I went to summer camp as a kid, I might want to send my kid to summer camp because I think that they're going to have a great time too, but they might hate it, or they might love things that I think are totally boring. But people have to acknowledge each other's differences, even when we want the best for them. So even if Wednesday chooses to join a different club, participate in a different way, take her own path to the beat of her own drum, her parents have to be able to communicate with her about that, and be able to accept her for who she is.
And she may choose to not participate at all. Having those options available to her is great, but it's up to your teen to choose what appeals to them. And it's important to not project your experience onto your child.
Yeah. No two people are the same, no matter how similar they might be. Let's keep going.
Her name comes from a line from my favorite nursery rhyme. Wednesday's child is full of woe. You always had a unique perspective on the world, Morticia. Did your mother tell you we were roommates back in the day?
I feel like I don't need to pause for this, but
Intact? Impressive.
even naming your kid something that means a lot to you kind of saddles them with an expectation right out of the gate.
It does.
They haven't built one strong enough to hold me.
She looks thrilled.
What about Wednesday's therapy session? The court ordered them.
Court-mandated therapy. Woohoo!
Jericho. She can meet twice a week.
Did you hear that, my little storm cloud? You're in excellent hands.
We'll see if she's
We'll be
first
the
this
judge of that.
session.
I've heard fun things. Not good
And
things,
so
but
did
fun
your
things.
mother's old doll, Ophelia Hall.
Refresh my memory. Ophelia is the one who kills herself after being driven mad by her family. Correct?
Should we go meet your new roommate?
Already sensing an aesthetic clash.
It's,
Right, cultural clash.
What
Vivid.
gave you that idea?
Howdy, roomie.
Wednesday, this is Enid Sinclair.
Are you feeling okay? You look a little pale.
Wednesday always looks
This coming from the blonde?
Welcome to Ophelia Hall.
Not a hugger.
Not a hugger.
Oh, well, yeah, right on cue.
She's allergic to color.
Allergic to color. I remember when I first had the college roommate experience, what a culture clash that was. People's ideas of personal space, of what is and isn't okay to say, what isn't okay to, present themselves as, that all kind of comes into clashing territory when you're in tight, confined spaces like this. Now, I know this isn't college, it's boarding school, apparently, but yeah, that strikes true with me.
Yeah, similar experience. And then you also have someone like Wednesday who is so rigid one way, and then you have Eden on the opposite end of the spectrum to where there's almost no way for compromise in this situation.
Yeah, we'll see if that lends itself. Starting from a place of polar opposites, you might have more common ground, but it's up to communication, especially if it's a situation like, you're in college and your roommate is from a completely different perspective, culture, whatever. You might be able to communicate and be able to find compromise and be able to find things that you had in common. Most of the world likes soccer. Y'all call it football. So, there's things that we can find in common with each other. We'll see if Wednesday and her roommate Enid, I think, we'll see if they can find some common ground.
Outcasts, freaks, monsters. Fill in your favorite marginalized group here.
So we see right away that Enid is kind of lumping Wednesday in with the crowd there. She says, people like us here.
If you're here, there must be something wrong with you.
Yes.
So, everybody loves feeling like there's something wrong with them, right?
Right. Even outcasts, want that community, but they don't want to be called outcasts.
Nobody thrives, no matter how much they say they do, nobody really thrives off of ostracization, right?
Yeah, and shared
Being
misery.
a pariah, yeah.
It's all a part of their nefarious yet completely obvious plan.
What plan?
To turn me into a version of themselves.
So some good insight here from Wednesday.
To turn your kid into a version of yourself. I think a lot of parents do that without trying.
Absolutely.
Without thinking about it consciously. They think, I turned out okay, or our values are XYZ, we want our kid to have those values too. We want them to be that way. Even if it's subjective, like, I was good at sports, I want my kid to be good at sports. And oftentimes we can pressure them and kind of try and make the square peg fit the round hole.
Absolutely. And, you know, if you ask the parent if they were doing this, they might deny it because they don't know what's happening.
Yeah, of course, no parent wants to go, well, of course I'm being a jerk to my kids, you know? But sometimes it takes really taking a step back from the problem that you're too close to and saying, am I actually making my kid's life better, or am I just trying to make them more like me?
And if you intend it one way, that doesn't mean it's the way your child will perceive it.
Most of communication isn't what we communicate, it's how the other person receives that communication.
Let me give you a wiki on Nevermore's social scene. I'm not
Interesting.
interested in participating in tribal adolescent cliches. Then use it to fuel your obviously bottomless pit of disdain. There are many flavors of outcasts
I like her.
here, but the four main cliques are fangs, furs, stoners, and scales. Those are the fangs, aka vampires. Some of them have literally been here for decades. That bunch of knuckleheads are furs, aka werewolves, like me. Hormones get pretty loud around here.
Oh boy.
That's when furs like wolf out. I suggest you pick up some noise-canceling headphones. I'm assuming scales are sirens. You catch on quick. And that girl, Bianca Barclay, is the closest thing Nevermore has to royalty. Although her crown's been slipping lately. She used to date a resident tortured artist, Xavier Thorpe, but they broke up at the beginning of the semester. Reason?
If I had to name a hipster, it would be
I know, right?
Xavier
My
Thorpe.
blog is like the number one.
She eats human flesh. Totally chowed down on that kid she murdered. You better watch your back.
Quite the contrary. I actually fillet the bodies of my victims, then feed them to my menagerie of pets. Ajax, this is my new roommate Wednesday.
You notice that Wednesday never denies an outlandish rumor about her. She turns it around and magnifies it. There's an awesome line. I say it's an awesome line. It's famous by now from Game of Thrones, where the dwarf character Tyrion is talking to Jon Snow, who is a bastard child. And he calls him a bastard, and he gets all offended. He's like, "Don't call me that." And he goes, "You're a dwarf." He goes, "Of course I am." Don't let people use what you are against you. Wear it like armor. Embrace it, and it can't hurt you. I think Wednesday uses her reputation as armor.
Absolutely.
I find social media to be a soul-sucking void of meaningless affirmation.
Gonna agree with Wednesday on this one.
Really accurate statement right there.
Delete your TikTok, kids.
Any plans you have of running away and right now?
Oh, mom's playing hardball.
All family members to contact me the minute you darken their doorstep.
As usual, you underestimate me, Mother.
So
I will
obviously
escape
Wednesday is going to
this
take this as a
educational
challenge.
penitentiary.
Yeah, confronting the confrontational child. She's not making any attempt to play ball with her. She's saying, I know what you're going to do. You're going to be oppositional. You're going to be defiant. Right? And I've already anticipated that. We're in a battle now. And it's become mom versus daughter instead of a collaborative effort.
Right. Morticia doesn't really make a lot of effort to set Wednesday up for success in terms of the things that she can look forward to that can help her create her own identity at the school.
And we haven't seen the last, what's she, 16, 17? We haven't seen the last, decade and a half of Wednesday's life. So we don't know how often they've done the song and dance, and parents can get exhausted. It can be exhausting dealing with a strong-willed child, especially one so contrarian as Wednesday. She's not making it easier on her mom, but it's up to the adult to be the one who reaches out in communication and be the bigger person. That's just part of being a parent. Yeah,
I will never fall in love, or be a housewife, or have a family.
she's outright rejecting Morticia's identity and any desire that Morticia has for Wednesday to be like her.
And I think one thing that Morticia could have done differently here is really tell Wednesday that it's okay for her to be her own person. It's okay if she doesn't fall in love with the school the same way Morticia did. It's okay if she doesn't like it, but she stays there and gets an education. It's okay if she doesn't take up the same hobbies as Morticia. It's important that parents communicate to their children, it's okay if you want to pursue something that's totally foreign to me. I will support you.
Matches the profile of the other 2 attacks last week.
I'd issue a warning, keep hikers out of the woods. Don't approve any more campfire permits for the foreseeable future.
What do you want me to tell the press? You know they're going to be swarming like mosquitoes in July.
Organize the witch hunt.
You don't really believe that, Sheriff.
No, I don't.
They're different. They must
Whoever
be
did this
evil.
wasn't human. Look, I know these murders are connected to Nevermore. I just can't
How?
prove it yet. So
I was about to say
Mm.
how. Probably, but how?
What the hell did you do to my room?
Maybe not
Flooding
the
our room, you fool.
start. Maybe she should have discussed this with her, see if
Looks
they
like a
could
rainbow
come
blanket
together.
on your side. Silence would be appreciated. This is my writing time.
Polar
By the way, there are
opposites.
2 D's in Addams. If you're going to gossip about me, at least spell my name correctly.
You know, something I noticed about that scene is
Turn that off.
Wednesday actually took the time to look up Enid's writing.
She
Don't
does
mess
care
with me. This kitty's got claws in her.
about
I'm
what
not
she
afraid
thinks
to
of her.
use them.
And Christina Ricci makes her first appearance, not as Wednesday.
I'm Miss Thornhill, your dorm mom. Apologies I wasn't here to greet you when you arrived. I trust Enid has given you the old Nevermore welcome.
She's been smothering me with hospitality. I hope to return the favor. In her sleep.
The locals are a tad bit wary about Nevermore. So
Gee.
please, don't go making
Wonder
any
why.
waves or perpetuating any outcast stereotypes. That means keep your claws to yourself and no smothering people in their sleep. Are we clear?
Let's talk for just a second about how Wednesday's tendency to hardline judge people really prevents her from making solid relationships.
It really does. And for a lot of people, that is a protective mechanism. You know, if I don't let anyone in, I can't get hurt.
If you're different like Wednesday is, then maybe when you were younger, you experienced a lot of teasing, bullying, name-calling, being ostracized, having those differences pointed out and maybe gawked at a little bit. But she's kind of, I feel like she thinks that she's smarter than everybody around her. Maybe she is, but letting them know that and blatantly judging their tastes, their culture, their outfits, their preferences as less than her own doesn't do her any favors in the realm of being able to make those relationships. Like her mother says, she doesn't do herself any favors. She can get in her own way sometimes.
She's right.
There's a grain of truth in that, I think.
That first point was clearly beginner's luck.
Why are you taking your masks
Let's
off?
finish this.
For the final point, I would like to invoke a military challenge. No masks, no tips. Winner draws first blood.
There's no tips on a saber. There's tips on foil,
It's your decision, dear.
sometimes an epee, but this is not a
Let's see
realistic
if you read 'em black
swords
and white.
reaction channel. This is a therapy reaction channel. Though I'm not digging the useless twirls either.
We also see Wednesday trying to up the ante, trying to take it just a little bit farther.
She picked a fight and lost.
Now, interesting about this because fencing was something that Morticia was kind of the leader of. This was something she was very involved in. So we see a little bit of potentially following in Mom's footsteps here, but it's not enough to just be in fencing club. It's I have to win, and then I have to take it one step further. And what does it do for Wednesday when she loses?
She's worse off than when she started.
Absolutely.
Now she does. It's the best way to put this. She went in thinking, I'm better than everybody. Now she has to prove it. Now she has to gain lost ground. Now it's, oh, I've lost face. I need to regain it. And if I know where I think this is going with this type of character, this is very true of real life as well. If you take somebody who's got a chip on their shoulder or a self-esteem problem and you give them that, oh, now you've been humiliated publicly because of something that you started.
Yes.
Instead of taking the lesson and reflecting on yourself, they're going to double down.
It creates a sense of desperation.
Yeah.
You're Wednesday, right? Rowan, I know how you feel.
I guarantee you don't.
Nobody knows how I
My
feel.
mother promised me I'd
Exactly. Let me
finally fit
distance
in
myself
somewhere.
just a little more.
I'm alone.
I never thought it was possible to be an outcast in a school full of outcasts. But
That's
it looks like you're
me.
gonna give me a run for my money.
If I'm Wednesday, I either double down or I run away. Or I survive a murder attempt.
The last thing I remember, I was walking outside, feeling a mixture of rage, pity, and self-disgust. I never
About
felt
what
that
we
way
thought
before.
she would feel.
Losing to Bianca has that effect on people, I think.
And then I looked up and I saw that gargoyle coming down at me, and I thought, well, at least I'll have an imaginative death. Then you tackled me out of the way. Why?
Call it instinct.
So you were guided by latent chivalry, a tool of the patriarchy to extract my undying gratitude?
No
Rather
good
than-
deed goes unpunished, right?
So a normal person in that situation would say, thank you. Thanks for saving me. Rather than, you know, this could not have been an act of altruism.
What's your angle?
Yeah, exactly. You want me to thank you?
That comes, I think, from her attitude about herself.
Absolutely. And she articulates beautifully what she was feeling right before he pushes her out of the way. Rage, pity, self-disgust. Because, you know, what happened with fencing, that was her own fault.
Yeah. It's also telling that she can only conjure negative reasons of why he would tackle her out of the way.
Absolutely.
There's something wrong with him that he would save her. I find that I don't know exactly where it's coming from. It might just be a way to characterize her as abnormal, perhaps, or aggressive, perhaps confrontational.
All good descriptors for Wednesday.
All good descriptions for Wednesday. Home of Pilgrim World. What is Pilgrim World?
Funny you should ask.
I mean, it's on the sign. I'm gonna ask.
The second floor.
So we're about to meet Wednesday's therapist.
Oh boy, TV therapists. They're all so good.
We can visit the weather vane for hot chocolate.
Principal Weems, this feeble attempt at bonding is beneath you.
What do you want from her? A right cross? Like,
Right. I know.
Here, Wednesday. Whack, out
Any
you go.
attempt at kindness or civility is outright rejected by
It's
Wednesday.
taken as a ploy by her. Like, what do you gain from this? She was asking what he gained from saving her. What Xavier Thorpe... I'm sorry, that name. What Xavier Thorpe gained by saving her. What, you know, her parents gained by sending her there. She's a deep mistrust of people's intentions. And she assumes that the principal trying to bond with her is for her own benefit and not Wednesday's.
She is deeply suspicious of people manipulating her and kind of assumes that that's the case.
I wonder if that's a reaction to her parents. That she feels maybe a little bit too sculpted by them.
I read the notes from your school counselor.
Mrs. Bronstein, she had a nervous breakdown after our last session, had to take a 6-month sabbatical.
Go ahead and take a seat.
So not Wednesday's
How did you feel about
first experience.
Vindicated. But
With a
someone who
clinician?
stands for her hobbies and a worthy adversary.
She already views the therapeutic relationship as adversarial. Which, spoiler alert, it shouldn't be. Guys, we're here to help. We don't want to fight with you in the office. If you're not ready for therapy, if you don't want to come to therapy, take your time. Don't come to therapy and just mean mug us or, be hostile to us. That's not fun for us either, right?
Now, what about the case of Wednesday where it is court-ordered or court-mandated therapy?
In that case, it's a little bit different, where you might be there when you don't want to be. We're still on your side, whether you think we are or aren't.
Right. We can't make you take advantage of therapy. We can't force you to have insight, and we really shouldn't be forcing you to do anything at all. A good therapist will challenge you to make your own self-discovery and, challenge you to think outside of your session, because therapy is only one part of your progress and growth.
We get you for an hour a week. You gotta live with yourself the entire rest of the week, and so does your family, your friends, and everybody who's around you. So processing what you learn in therapy, the skills that you get, the insights that you're able to achieve throughout the rest of the week, that's why we often give homework like journaling or recording your thoughts so that you can listen to them. It's a way for you to keep therapy going even when you're not in the office with us. And again, we can bring you to water, but only you can drink it.
That's right. The real work is done the other 23 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Exactly.
Adversary, I hope we can forge a relationship based on trust and mutual respect.
Decent so far.
Space Wednesday, a sanctuary where we can discuss anything. What you're thinking, feeling, your views on the world, personal philosophy.
That's easy. I think that this is a waste of time. I see the world as a place that must be endured, and my personal philosophy is kill or be killed.
So, for instance, when someone bullies your brother, your response is to dump piranha in the pool.
You know the old saying, never bring a knife to a sword fight. Unless it's concealed.
Something here that I think the therapist does that may not play well with someone like Wednesday is kind of overwhelm them at first. She starts out well with this should be a relationship built on mutual trust and respect. That's great. The best therapeutic relationships are built on those things. But then she says, I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know what you're feeling. I want to know what your philosophy is. For someone who is new to therapy or someone who doesn't want to be there, thinking about sharing all of that with a virtual stranger can be really overwhelming.
Exactly. There's people who have personality types that aren't chatty Cathy. They're not going to want to open up to a total stranger. Even people who are gregarious normally, when you're getting on to deep stuff like your personal philosophy, your ethos, the things that drive you, that can be a scary place to go with a stranger, let alone anybody. So, kind of, like you said, going into that straight away might be, having her drink from a fire hydrant first session. Especially when working with teenage clients, when I was training, my supervisor used to say it usually takes right around 1.5 years of working with a teenage client for them to feel completely comfortable with you, that you've developed enough rapport that you don't have to make that conscious effort to get in with them.
And that's, the case for a lot of people. And some people, you will see them for a long time and it's still like pulling teeth to get them to open up to you.
It just depends on where everybody's at in their personal journey, but especially with people in an awkward phase of life, like being a teenager, nobody thinks that they're all that when they're a teenager. And if they think that they've got it all together, well, that'll be one week, and then another week they'll think that they're the most awkward, gangly, person at their school or alive. It's a time for us to kind of test our self-confidence, but we're also testing the systems that were around us, right? Our parents, we're pushing back against them, we're pushing back against our schools. We're seeing, did the system that we were brought up in, is it worthy of us, right?
I've answered all your questions. We're not done yet.
Both the therapist and Wednesday are judging each other right now.
Therapy
Absolutely.
is a valuable tool to help you understand yourself. It can teach you new ways to deal with your emotions. It can also help you build a life that you want.
I know the life that I want.
Tell me about it. Everything said in these sessions is strictly confidential.
Okay.
I was about to say something.
So
Go
see
ahead.
us kind of bristle here, especially when it comes to a minor, but this is the case for all clients of any age. You cannot promise 100% confidentiality at any time because there's always going to be exceptions to the rule. And what are a couple of those exceptions, Bobby?
So, for me, whenever I do an intake session with somebody and it's our first time meeting each other, awesome, nice to meet you, tell me about you. First thing, I'm going to go over 3 major confidentiality exceptions. The first is if you tell me that you're going to harm yourself or somebody else. In Wednesday's case, I might hear a lot of that, and I need to warn her up front, hey, if you tell me that you're going to leave here and hurt some other kid, that's not confidential. I have to alert an authority about that.
And that's called,
Duty
to warn.
Yeah. Second would be if you report to me the abuse of an elderly person or a minor. So if Wednesday told her therapist that one of the other kids at school was being beaten or, God forbid, assaulted, by a word that YouTube doesn't like, at home, that's something I also have to report, and that we would have to make a report to State Department for. And finally, if a court orders me to give my notes about a session to them for purposes of subpoena, we have to turn those over. And since Wednesday's a minor, like you said, anything that her parents request, a meeting, things like that, that's not confidential either.
Do your plans involve becoming an author? I understand you've written 3 novels about a teen girl detective, Viper de la Muerte. Can you tell me about her?
Viper is smart, perceptive, chronically misunderstood.
Because I was sent the manuscripts as part of your psych evaluation. The relationship I found most intriguing was that of Viper and her mother, Dominica. Why don't we dig into that? Wednesday, part of this journey requires us going to uncomfortable places emotionally.
I wouldn't push there.
This, especially being her first meeting with Wednesday, you really don't want to push, hey, if you want this to work, or here's what you're going to have to do in order to make me happy, make your parents happy. Really best not to push. We're in the stage right now with Wednesday and Dr. Kimball here where we're doing what's called building rapport. So you really want to not push the client, but allow them to ask questions about you, inquire into her life, which Dr. Kimball does a good job here. Hey, I hear you're an author. Let's talk about that.
That's positive.
A great place to start. But, I wouldn't push it past that.
Yeah, especially first session, she might just clam up. And a lot of teenage clients do. A lot of people who don't want to be there or their parents made them, they're going to give you one-word answers if they're going to give you answers. And sometimes the whole session might be, let's circle the drain. Let's just talk about whatever you want to talk about, if anything. If not, that's okay too. Here, take some paper, draw something, express yourself.
Right.
The time is yours. I'm going to get to know you because we got nothing but time.
And as we know, not everyone responds to talk therapy. Sometimes you have to try something different.
Yeah. I have a colleague who's a great art therapist. And some people, I'm a talker. I love expressing myself verbally. I'm terrible at art. A lot of different people, they're the opposite, that they don't find the right words to describe how they're feeling, but artistically they can express that with paint, with crayon, whatever they're going to do. That's their way of conveying their point. And that's okay too. And therapists have to be able to allow people to express themselves in the way and in the time that they want to.
Right. Or maybe the thought of talking to a therapist is really scary, but writing it would be a little bit easier. So in that case, we're going to give our client a piece of paper and a pen and say, see what comes out.
Yeah. Or between sessions, if you have a thought, write it down then so that you can bring it in, fully articulate their thought. I know a lot of the clients that I had, they're afraid they're going to say the wrong thing or not fully form their thought or blurt something out that they don't mean to or half form it. Giving them the opportunity to take it home, to really take the time that they need in order to fully express themselves. I think that's understated in counseling.
And travel well. Would you mind if I use the powder room first?
So obviously we know what's happening here.
She's gonna make an escape attempt, of course.
Wednesday? Is everything okay? You can't hide in there for the rest of the session.
I'm all right.
So what do we think of this approach?
I wouldn't. Again, it's you can really read the frustration on her face and voice. It's session 1.
Yeah.
I really want to know who let her through her supervision
Well, from
process.
what we are going to see, a tiny bit of a spoiler, she is the only therapist in town. In the town of Jericho.
Oh, boy.
Now, for someone like Wednesday or any client who's coming to me for the first time, I've had clients who are so anxious that they need to get up pretty soon after we meet, and they need to, excuse themselves to go to the restroom because maybe they're, talking about things that are really uncomfortable and they would just want to give themselves a break for a minute.
Yeah. That's not terrifically uncommon. And the approach of, my session's not going the way I want it to, so I'm going to visibly get angry. Oh my god, it's so not about you.
Right.
If you're the therapist, it's so not about you. That's what we call transference.
Right.
Or countertransference, when we allow our personal feelings to kind of bleed onto the client.
Maybe the client reminds you of, a really unpleasant childhood friend that you have. And you are just, it's all coming up, those same feelings of frustration and, gosh, this is just the last thing that I needed today. But how many times have we been in session with a client and it doesn't go the way that we thought it would?
All the time. I come in with a loose skeleton of what plan I have for us in the direction that you've expressed. Like, if you set goals, we're going to kind of go in the direction of those goals. But sometimes we get a curveball. And Wednesday just threw her a curveball, and she's not responding well to it. She's assuming an adversarial stance. You need to come out and make my session the way it needs to be.
Exactly.
That's not good for the client.
And it really shows how when a therapist is approaching a session in a very rigid way and isn't flexible enough to adapt, it doesn't go well.
Preparing myself for our uncomfortable journey. No fun.
If that was my therapist, I'd probably want to escape too.
Yes, and
first session,
this is a really nice building. Most places that we've worked don't usually have a nice bathroom with a window, easily accessible.
Yeah, you get one in the hall if you're lucky. That espresso machine explodes.
Holy crap! Do you make a habit of scaring the hell out of people?
It's more of a hobby.
Good or never more. Didn't realize they changed up the uniform.
I need a quad over ice. It's an emergency. It's 4 shots of espresso.
Yeah, I know what a quad is, but, spoiler alert, the espresso machine's having a seizure, so all we have is drip.
But drip is for people who hate themselves and know their lives have no real purpose or meaning.
Judging again.
What's wrong with your machine?
It's a temperamental beast with a mind of its own, and it doesn't help that the instructions are Italian.
I need a tri-wing screwdriver and 4mm Allen wrench.
I'll fix your problem because it serves me.
Absolutely.
Not because I want to help you, but because I need the espresso.
Here's the deal. I'm going to fix your coffee machine. Then you're going to make my coffee and call me a taxi.
You're a taxi.
No taxis in Jericho. Listen, Wednesday, one fun fact about me. I can't be bought, so either wait or find someone else to drive you.
I wonder if she'll respect that conviction.
Apologies, Sheriff. This all slipped away from me. Come on, Miss Addams, time to go.
So
Wait
close.
a minute, hang on. You're an Addams? Don't tell me Gomez Addams is your father. That man belongs behind bars for murder.
Dun,
Guessing
dun,
the apple
dun,
doesn't fall far
dun,
from the
dun.
tree.
Hang on.
I'm gonna keep my eye on you.
Well, there's a nice assumption there that he makes. I think your dad belongs in prison, which means something's up about you.
Yeah.
What did he mean? That's all I got.
Oh, she's expressing a vulnerability.
Some wolves are late bloomers, but I've been to the best lichenologist. Had to fly to Milwaukee, would you believe it? You know, she says there's a chance I might never, you know. What happens then?
She's taking an interest in her.
Sounds perfect. Are you kidding me? My life would be officially over.
What appeals to
I'd be
her
kicked out of my
is the
family
opposite
back
of what
and the
appeals to
prospect of finding
Enid.
I'm failing to see the problem here.
I could die alone.
We all die alone. Woo!
Wednesday also
Oh,
has
yeah, there we
trouble
go.
seeing someone else's perspective and how it could be different.
Dream people up.
Why are you crying?
That could be
Because I'm
a
upset.
sign of a developmental
Have you
issue.
ever cried
It
when you
absolutely
about that
could.
too?
Two of them held me down and made me watch.
So we've got some trauma.
All the others ran Miro over until
Traumatic experience to lose a pet.
it
Definitely.
was snowing when I buried what was left of him. I cried my little black heart
We
out.
see another Black Dahlia.
But tears don't fix anything.
While true, tears
about to
are
never
a
meet
healthy
again.
expression of emotion for some people.
Your secret's safe with me.
Sometimes letting yourself experience and process the emotion is fixing something. So maybe the tears don't fix the situation that caused the tears, but letting yourself process it, letting yourself feel it, letting yourself be vulnerable with someone that you can trust or in a space that's safe, that can do something. In Gestalt therapy, they say that the realization or the revelation, coming to an understanding of yourself, is therapy. It is treatment. When you make that click, that's an intervention.
I don't have time to explain, but you're in danger.
I think you've got it backwards.
So is the quiet ones.
What was that?
As much as it pains me to admit, you were right, Mother. I think I'm going to love it here.
Well, she's beginning to engage with, maybe not the system, but at least
The story's
people.
about to take.
So what did we think of the first episode of Wednesday?
That was a lot of fun. It was fun watching someone who's
The story's
typical,
about to take a dark turn.
whose typical exterior experience mirrors a lot of teenagers' lived interior experience.
It does. We also, they packed a lot into this first episode. We have a, TV therapist that we're introduced to.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about kind of what she does well and what she could maybe improve on.
Maybe not so well.
Also, Wednesday's interaction with others, where she really, tries at times, and where she's met with resistance and then doubles down on that.
I had a good time with Wednesday episode 1.
Yeah?
I'm looking forward to the next one as we figure out what the heck is going on with Nevermore Academy.
Who is this beast? What is it?
Don't say that like you don't know, but I will ask, who is this beast?
I had just as much fun
What's
watching
going
it the
on?
second time.
I'm scared. Hold me.
Emotional support.
Yeah, I'll go get my emotional support puppy. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to edit this down for YouTube, but again, if you want to see our full unedited reaction on Patreon, you can feel free to follow us on there, see some rewards. We'll be more than happy to have you come along for the ride when next we dive into Wednesday or one of the other shows that we're going to be doing. Look for our shorts that are also going to be coming out in the weeks. This is our first video, but we want to make this not only awesome for us, but awesome for you as well.
Thank you so much for joining us for the inaugural episode of Two Therapists, One Breakdown. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.